Evening, folks. Merry Christmas from Rocky Ridge Farm. Hope you guys all had a pleasant day, had a good time gathering, hopefully with some friends and family. We had a really nice day here. We're been here on the farm all day. Family came over and just had a good time with the kids and exchanging gifts. But it's quiet. It's finally quiet. Put the kids down a little bit ago and was just sitting here thinking about some, bigger thoughts about Christmas and what it means to me. And I just wanted to share a few things with you tonight. Ultimately, to me, Christmas is the dawn of hope for humanity. And I think with everything going on this past year, the fear and confusion we've been living with the pandemic, we could all use a little bit of that right now. And ultimately, that's the story of Christmas. It is hope, a story of hope, and a story of rescue. And to illustrate that, of kind of how I think about it, and take a scene from a story that may not seem like it fits, but it's one of my favorite stories, a scene from The Lord of the Rings. And I'm a closet Tolkien nerd, I love those stories. But in the end of the story, The Return of the King, there's the scene of the battle for Minas Tirith. Minas Tirith is the main city where the fight really for freedom of the world is falling, if you don't know the story. But basically, where we pick up the scene, the city of Minas Tirith is surrounded by an army of hundreds of thousands of orcs. And it's an army of evil. And the city's been covered under a cloud of darkness, an artificial cloud that's been generated by this Dark Lord Sauron, who's just blocked out the light and covered the city in despair. And they've been cut off and besieged from all sides, no hope of rescue. The leaders are despairing. They've sent out calls for help to their allies, the kingdom of Rohan, that's a few days' ride away, and no help has come. And the situation growing increasingly desperate. And right at the moment when it seems like evil is about to break through, the armies of darkness, they've broken down the gate, they've breached the city wall, and the evil commander rides through the gate and he's about to take his prize. Suddenly, a horn blast rings out. And everyone pauses and looks, and on the eastern skyline, the light breaks over the ridge. And as they see the light dawning, King Theoden, the king of Rohan, and his army of horsemen comes up over the hill. And he sees the city surrounded and cut off and at the brink of falling, and he rallies his troops and they charge down the hill to the rescue of the city, and it's a fierce battle cry, and they charge death, charging down the hill to rescue the city. That's the story of Christmas. You say, wait a minute, I know Christmas isn't a battle cry. Christmas is about stables and mangers and talking animals or something like that. So, well, maybe you're not reading the story carefully enough. Christmas story is a war cry of invasion, of God sending his son to rescue us from the power of darkness. And we see this, if you look deeper, you got to remember the Christmas story is not the beginning. The Christmas story picks up in the middle of the action of the Bible, and the story has been going on for thousands of years. And we see all the way back in the book of Genesis, when humanity falls into darkness and gives in to sin, God promises all the way back in the Garden of Eden that he will send a deliverer. He'll send someone to rescue us and to restore to us what was lost. And that theme continues through the Old Testament. We see over and over again God promising rescue, restoration, promising to send a king, to send a deliverer. And as we pick up the story in the New Testament, these are the kind of phrases that the people that are in this story are using. They're talking about deliverance. They're looking for someone like Moses that's going to lead the people out of slavery and into new freedom. They're looking for someone like King David, who's going to conquer Israel's enemies. What they didn't realize was the enemy was not political. It was not national. Their enemy was the power of evil, the power of darkness. And just as in that story that I shared with you from the Lord of the Rings, when the dawn breaks and hope is kindled, everyone looks and the rescue has come. There was still a major battle to fight. Just because the rescue came didn't mean that the war was over. But it sparked hope. The promises are fulfilled. And read a few things to you from the book of Luke. Zechariah talking about the coming king. He says, because of our God's merciful compassion, the dawn from on high will visit us, to shine on those who live in darkness and the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. Or, in Matthew, this is describing Jesus' early ministry. They quote in Matthew chapter 4, quoting from the book of Isaiah. This is a prophecy about Jesus. It says, the people who live in darkness have seen a great light. And for those living in the shadowland of death, light has dawned. And we forget that the ultimate victory that Jesus won was against the power of death and the power of sin. And he didn't just come, he also conquered. He conquered sin and death on the cross. And because of that, we have hope. And in the end of the New Testament, we hear in the book of Hebrews that Jesus also shared in our flesh and blood, that he might, through his death, destroy the one holding the power of death. That is the devil, and free those who were held in slavery all their lives by the fear of death. And so the Christmas story is the opening salvo, if you will. It's the shot across the bow that all these promises are fulfilled. The King has come, and this great plan of rescue and redemption has been set in motion. And for us now in our modern era, we have the benefit of knowing the rest of the story. And we have that hope fulfilled. And not only can we look to that in these times of uncertainty and times of fear and know, no, God has a plan. God is working all things to his purposes. And we can trust in that. And not only that, we can look forward to the promise that he is going to come again and fully set things right. He's setting things right now in the hearts of people who have followed him, but he will ultimately set it right again for everything when he returns. And so that is our hope, and that's our reminder that Christmas brings to us. And I hope that that's something that can speak to you. And if you're struggling, and as many of us are, just with the craziness of the times and the lack of truth around us, remember that the light has dawned. Those living in darkness have seen the great light. Jesus has come, Jesus conquered, and he'll come again, and there's hope because of that.